We expected some sort of transfer news, and we've got some. Anthony Gordon looks like he's going to be the next big signing for Newcastle United, but it seems to be splitting opinion like I've never known before a player's even kicked the ball for the club. So we're going to discuss the player, his attributes, the hesitation from Newcastle fans, and even we've spoke to some Everton fans about what they think, and it's all coming up, so stick around.
He does have pace. He needs to work on his finishing. He needs to work on his crossing. And he's just overall fitness as well. Can't last the game out, really. He lasts 70 minutes.
And he's an arrogant prick.
And he's just...
Welcome back to Black and White Banter, you lovely Newcastle fans. I'm saying welcome back. That's to my lovely subscribers, and I'd love you to be a subscriber. If you're new and you've never seen this face before, I'll apologise for it now, as I always do. But if you do like my voice and what I've got to say, please, by the end of this video, whack and hit that subscribe. Please give us one of these little likes. That's the thing you can do right now before you even listen to what I've got to say, because that takes nothing at all, but it means a great deal to us as we try and boost our channel, and it makes all this video editing worthwhile and this talking, because it actually goes to more people. So that would be lovely. So do it now and get Black and White Banter across all social media. So the transfer window has been very slow compared to last year's supermarket sweep. It's been very slow indeed. We've all been a little bit surprised, especially with Chris Wood leaving to go to Nottingham Forest, which has left our squad a bit shorter. But there has been a big development. Everton midfielder Anthony Gordon has agreed terms. The fee has been agreed with Everton, what looks like being 40 million with 5 million of add-ons to come in due course, so potentially a total fee of 45 million pounds. It's a lot of money. It's a player I'm surprised at being our first signing, if I'm being totally honest. But before we get into who the player is, I just want to talk about the criticism that's been met by this signing. I've sat through us over the years signing some absolute shite, pardon the French, and I've never known so many people to be getting on a player's back before he's even signed for the club as much as what I'm seeing on social media for this guy. Never in my life have I had more faith in the management, whether that be Eddie Howe, whether that be Dan Ashworth, whether that be Amanda Staveley, who's obviously given the finances for these deals, Mehrdad, Gadusi, Jamie Rubin. The structure of this club is already wonderful in such an early stage in this new project. And I've got full faith in these guys. Why would we have any other? They've sent us from bottom of the league in a year to the League Cup semi-final and third in the league, looking like European football's already a possibility. We've had Botman come through the door. We've had Bruno come through the door. We've had Isak, who looks like he's going to light up the Premier League. If this is who Eddie Howe wants, yes, we can all have our opinions on him as a footballer before Eddie Howe's interest. Of course we can, which we'll discuss in a bit. But to be absolutely lacing into this young kid before he's even been officially confirmed, before he's even kicked a ball, before he's even been given a chance to have a training session, has just really surprised me. And I think what this massively falls down to is the attitude that the reputation that you could maybe argue Anthony Gordon's created for himself. Now, I'm seeing lots of tweets like this one about what he did when he was last at St James's Park, when he was caught diving. Trippier didn't like it. He got in Cher's face and they all had a bit of argy-bargy. Now, Anthony Gordon has created a reputation for himself to be a bit of a hothead, to be a bit of a fiery character on the football pitch. But let's have it be said, Newcastle fans, if that's the reason a lot of people are lacing into this guy, first and foremost, isn't that the same characteristics that we absolutely love about this Newcastle team? I see Joe Linton pushing people over every week and I absolutely love it. I see Bruno winning a slide tackle and screaming to the fans and celebrating in the air like we've just scored a goal. I see every single one of them Newcastle players standing up for each other like they are all brothers on the football pitch. And they've just seen one of the youngest brothers picked on the playground. And that is what I absolutely love about this Newcastle team. So yes, he's been caught diving and he's been booked for it and he's been ridiculed for it on Match of the Day, on, I'm sure, Everton fan pages, of course. But we've had plenty of players do that. I don't like to see it, and it doesn't wash up here. And I'm sure Eddie Howe knows it doesn't wash up here. Jose Perez did it plenty. Make whatever your opinions are on him, that's your opinion. You know, he did a lot of good for us, but he did it plenty. Almiron still does it plenty for Newcastle United. But this whole, he's a twat, he's a shithouse, he's this, he's that. Those are some of the characteristics which I personally think that Eddie Howe has signed this player for. Because that meets into everything we are witnessing on that football pitch. We celebrate together, we defend together, we stand up for each other. I mean, look at the scenes when we played Chelsea, just before Christmas, before the World Cup, when Dan Burn and everyone was kicking off at the end. Every one of them had their backs. So if Anthony Gordon wants to bring that fire to the pitch and annoy other fans in doing so, I'm all for it. And the criticism I'm seeing for this kid, before we even talk about his ability and his playing style, is massively his attitude as a player. And that surprises me because, yes, the diving is a different thing. I hate it. We all do. It's something that's crept in more and more as the years have gone on. But that can be ironed out. He's a young kid. He's 21 years old. This whole, he's a twat, he's this, he's a knob, he's this, he's that. That just comes from him having a bit of fire in his belly, in my opinion, and getting in people's faces. I like to see that. When I play football, even five-a-side with my mates, that's my character. Getting in people's faces, winding people up. It's all part of the game, and we're loving it. So I think that makes us hypocrites, if that's why you don't like the guy. Now, before I talk about him as a player, what are my thoughts on the initial signing? Well, he's not what I expected. He's not what I necessarily think we need as of right now. If you're talking about maybe a League Cup final on the horizon, a European push. But I don't think this window was ever going to be about players for right now to go straight in that starting 11. And I could be proved wrong on that in the next 4 days. Newcastle could go and splash 70, 80 million, I don't know. But that's never what this window was about. Eddie Howe has one eye on the future. And he's talked about that. And the rest of the club, Dan Ashworth, when he's been interviewed, has talked about that. Anthony Gordon's 21 years old. Anthony Gordon, and again we'll get into this very soon, has a lot of characteristics which suit what Eddie Howe likes to see on his football pitch, in how his philosophy and his tactical style of play for this club. So I think he is still one for now. With that price tag, I think there'd be a bit of a demand to see him play some minutes from fans, from maybe ownership, I don't know. But he's certainly one for the future. 21 years old. He's not proven, he's raw. And am I over the moon? No, he's not going to be one of them ones where I'm singing and dancing. We've signed Anthony Gordon. You know, like Isak, when we got him in the last couple of days of the summer window, I didn't know much about him. I just knew that he was hot property and that got me excited. Obviously, I went away and read, as I've done on Anthony Gordon, because I haven't watched much of him. So he doesn't get me jumping for joy, dicking balls out, spinning them round with happiness. No. But I also, aside from trusting the process, like I mentioned at the start, and trusting this wonderful project and management and structure that we have with these guys who know what they are doing. Dan Ashworth is a man who knows what he's doing with transfers. I think he's going to go into that squad straight away, and he's going to offer us another option from the get-go. So we are not getting weaker by signing Anthony Gordon, we are getting stronger. Now let's talk about him a little bit as a player, and this is what's interesting for me, because I just mentioned his age. This guy is 21 years old. Now everything that he has or hasn't done this season cannot be looked at under too much of a deep microscope. Everton have been absolutely shite. Absolutely shocking. Lampard's gone. Looks like they could be relegated. Fans are against their owners. Their club structure at the moment is a shit show. This Anthony Gordon has been chased by fans in his car down the street. We all saw that video. It's not a nice place to be. So I'm not judging too much on what Anthony Gordon can do off this season, because you could look at, you know, I still think there's a player in Calvert-Lewin, and we're just not seeing it because he's had injuries and he's had a shit time of things at Everton with the managerial changes over the last year, the ownership, everything, style of play, you name it. So Anthony Gordon for me is still very raw. Eddie Howe can do so much with him, can nurture him. Maybe take a little bit of that, what we just talked about, that diving out of him. He won't want that. I don't like how Anthony Gordon has not gone to training for 3 days. I'll say that now. That tells me a little bit about his character. And Eddie Howe, we know him now. We know him a lot better. He's done lots of podcasts talking about his integrity, doing things in the right way. Eddie Howe won't like that. you know, Anthony Gordon owes a lot to Everton Football Club. To not show up when they're paying you wages, I think, is ridiculous. So I will go on record and say that. But Eddie Howe is a manager who can turn Almiron into a goal-scoring machine. He is a manager who can take Joe Linton, one of our biggest flops, what talked about being one of our biggest flops in Premier League history, into one of our most integral midfielders in this current amazing campaign that we find ourselves on. He's the man who can pick out a defender like Sven Botman and go back after him, because he knows he is an absolute diamond of a centre-back, which he's already proven. And that's why I think Eddie Howe can do a lot with any player, and we've got no reason to doubt that. But that age for me is key. Very raw, loads to learn, lots to rein in on with regards to his attitude, when to do things, when not to do things. Now, his playing style. Eddie Howe has Newcastle United playing a certain way under this new philosophy. High press, high intensity, full-flown attack, like literally at them from the first whistle, like a siege on the other team. They are in for a game, we are not here to sit back. Anthony Gordon ticks that box. The man has pace to burn. Absolute pace to burn. Versatility. Anthony Gordon can play on both sides. He can play on both sides of the pitch, left and right. I think he prefers right. That's why he's played more for Everton. But he can play on the left-hand side as well. So Eddie Howe instantly has a winger who is suited to both sides. Miguel Almiron, he's not suited to both sides. He hasn't got a right foot, let's face it. We love the guy. He's a legend this season, but he hasn't got a right foot. He really doesn't. St. Maximin, I don't think St. Maximin likes playing on the right-hand side. They both have their preferred positions as wingers. So there's that. There's his versatility. There's his defensive work. Now, I still personally think that Eddie Howe does not have full faith in St. Maximin because of that lack of intensity in his defensive attributes and his defensive willingness when he's playing. Not with Anthony Gordon. We talked about that fire in his belly. He has some very... Now, all the stats I'm sharing are the stats from the previous season, 21-22, when he was... You know, Everton were better. You know, they weren't in the total free-for-all that they were this season. Yes, they just avoided relegation. His stats matched up fantastically well in interceptions for any other midfielder in the Premier League. I think he's in sort of the top 5. I'll put the chart on the table now. Dribbling. He is a very, very good dribbler. Again, some of his stats from last season, he was one of the highest dribblers. All these players, by the way, have played like 900 minutes on these charts that I'm sharing. His dribbles were very, very high, but what's more interesting, successful dribbles was 63%, which is some of the highest in the Premier League last season. Bearing in mind the kid was only 20 and he was even more raw a year ago when some of these stats were bashed out. Now, crosses into the box. He's not one of the highest for that, but the man does like to whip a ball in, and he's done that time after time for Everton. And I personally think we are playing in a team with midfielders and wingers who don't like to do that. The closest wingers we have to players who like to whip the ball in constantly is Ryan Fraser, who's gone off the ball. We'll probably be selling him, so we're a winger short. And Jacob Murphy, who's just a bit part player. Almiron does not like to ping a ball in on repeat. That's what Kieran Trippier supports him for. St. Maximin, if he was being honest and sat down with a cup of tea right now, would probably tell you the last thing he likes to do is ping a ball in, because he likes to take a player on, have a shot, play something a little bit more guaranteed. He doesn't like all this hit and hope into the box. And to be honest, St. Maximin, when he crosses a ball, is not very good at it, in my opinion. So he does like to cross a ball to the box. But what's quite interesting about Anthony Gordon, even in this early raw part of his career, he can come a little bit more central, and then he can drag a midfielder out. And I think, again, that suits Eddie Howe's style, how we go for a 4 and a 3 and a 3. He can drop in to that, and he has actually played in the centre for Everton. So that versatility knows no bounds. He likes to hug the touchline, he likes to drag defenders out, but he also likes to come inside. I think versatility there is the key. And I think he's got a lot of promise. I think he has a lot of pace. I think he has just talent in abundance. And I think, yes, the price tag's big, but we know we get English tax. And I think that's what's making a lot of Newcastle fans go into meltdown. Money, money, money. Of course, a player abroad can be cheaper. But Eddie Howe's wanted this man from the get-go. He was inquiring last year, and he still wants him, because I think all of the things I've just mentioned, his high intensity, his defensive work, his willingness to run it a man, his pace, his willingness to put a ball into the box, all suits this Newcastle team that are probably going to see Jacob Murphy go out the door, potentially in the next year. Ryan Fraser, definitely. Almiron's only got the 1 foot. And Maximin, I still don't think Eddie Howe is sure. I really don't. I did jump on an Everton vlog, YouTube live, and asked the question what Everton fans thought of him. And this is what they had to say. I'll put it up now.
He's been absolutely crap for us. 40 million quid cash down on the table with an extra bit of possible fibre thrown in.
We've had your pants down
It's
on that.
Outstanding business for us. He could turn into a good player.
I was just going to say, I think different.
If he could actually... hang on, what I'm going to say is he could turn into a good player in a decent side coach and whatever, but he needs to get out of his own way because his ego is far bigger than his talent.
He's a shit Ross Barkley, let's just
what we would say on that subject is he thinks he's a lot better than he is. Yeah.
Oh, swallow that curry.
He's a lot better than he is to give him a good slap, tell him to get his head on and stop wearing Paddington Bear trousers because he looks.
Let's be honest, he's a shit Ross Barkley.
He will.
The thing
he will play better in that Newcastle.
He will play better in that team.
Eddie Howe wants him. He wants him in, and he wants to mould him as a character and as a player. So I think they will see a better Gordon than we've seen the last 6 months, and he'll be more motivated. He does have pace. He needs to work on his finishing. He needs to work on his crossing, and he's just overall fitness. As well. He can't last the game out. Really, he lasts 70 minutes.
And he's an arrogant prick.
And he's just a bit too.
Yeah, so it could end up being... It's a good deal for us. It's a good deal for us right now, and it could turn into a deal. It could turn into a good deal for them.
So as you've just seen on there, bit of a mixed bag. Some saying thank you very much for the money, gimme, because they're in a desperate relegation battle. But a couple of them Everton fans knowing that he's not going to be chucked in the deep end. Anthony Gordon has been a first team starter pretty much since making his debut for Everton, and that's not ideal when a player's as raw as what he is, when he needs nurturing a little bit because their desperate situation has meant he's had to play. So there was a lot of mixed answers there, lots of mentions of his attitude, which I find quite interesting. That's where Eddie Howe, I'm sure, knew that going in, but he's confident that he can nurture that, bottle that, and use that where it's effective, whether it's a case of that fire on the pitch, not that fire away from the dressing room. And I'm sure with the Everton fans, it's probably left a bit of taste that he hasn't gone to training, leaving them in a relegation battle. He's one of their own. We would be bitter about Longstaff leaving in the way that he's left. I don't doubt that. But it's interesting to hear Everton fans who still think there's a good player in there. They still think with the positive vibes that he's going to be walking into Newcastle, that he can slowly be nurtured into that team rather than thrown in every single game with such a reliance from Everton fans to help them beat the drop, which is what he's basically... He hasn't had an easy start to coming through the academy. It's like, Anthony Gordon, you've got to get us out of this shit 2 seasons in a row. So it's interesting to get the Everton fans' feedback. I'm all for it. Any young kid with the passion that he's got, I love a bit of that. Love a bit of fire in the belly. The diving, I don't. Eddie Howe wants him. I've got full faith in anyone that Mr. Dan Ashworth and Mr. Eddie Howe set their minds to and want in this squad. Why wouldn't I? Why wouldn't any Newcastle fan? Sorry, I probably seem a bit irate because I've seen so much shit for a player who hasn't even kicked the ball for us yet. And that's not a good start. And I don't want that, because if there's ever a management structure that we should have faith in, it's this one. And Eddie Howe wants this man the same as he wanted Botman, the same as he wanted Isak, the same as he wanted Bruno, and so on and so on and so on and so on, and Trippier and all these fantastic players that have come in. So let's get behind the lad. I've talked about a lot of his attributes. I hope you've liked this video. Obviously, speaking to the Everton fans was great as well. Not my favourite club, so I did try and stay quite polite and professional for the sake of this video. But if you've liked this video, Newcastle fans, drop down, give us a little subscribe. Goes a very long way. Whack that like and let me know your thoughts on Anthony Gordon. He wasn't the player we maybe all wanted. A certain name rhymes with James Gaddison. We all wanted that guy to come in. I think that was never on the cards in this window unless we're going to be proved wrong. There's a summer window to come. Eddie Howe's seen an opportunity there. One for the future, but also one for now. And that's a lovely mix. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you think we're going to do any more business in this window? There's no football this weekend, so there won't be any match previews or match vlogs, just that huge game on Tuesday. But I'm sure there will be more transfer videos before then. Hope you've enjoyed watching, Newcastle fans. I'll see you on the next one, and have a lovely weekend. Away the lads.